Jungle.
Welcome into the Sideline Sports Show. This is January 20th. Oh, boy. Ben, I got to tell you, man, getting on to the stream today was just a process.
Yeah.
Okay. Because first, getting my computer slow with every which way. Okay. And then, second of all, I forgot my password to get into my email to click the link to join. So I had to go through that process. And then I had to go through just a bunch of other hoops and everything. Finally got into my email, and then it took a solid couple minutes just to join the stream. So, but I'm here now, as we said before the stream. So I'm doing all right. How are you today, man?
Well, it looks like my camera doesn't want to cooperate, but I'm good. I was sick last week. Really did not feel getting out of the bed, but I'm here. That's all that matters, and I feel a ton better. So that's the best part. So
yeah, I'm glad you're feeling better for sure. And while you were in home quarantining, unfortunately, I'm sure you got to take in some NFL action last week. There were some interesting games that happened. Arguably the best one, Cincinnati and I keep wanting to say Oakland, but Las Vegas was very entertaining. The Raiders team Yeah, right. We have a Raiders team that arguably shouldn't have been there. Like at least we didn't think they should have been, or didn't think they would be after everything they had with John Gruden, Henry Ruggs. I mean, everybody in their draft class from 2020 is no longer on the team.
Yeah.
So, and that was just a year ago. So it's just all they had to deal with, and yet they still made the playoffs. So, and they gave the Bengals a game, but Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase kind of just proved to be too much for them. So,
yeah, and when you look back at that game, I think that was one of the only ones that was kind of like a toss-up that you felt like, okay, going in, it was more of a toss-up than any other game, in my opinion. It was better than the other game that was that night as well, the Bills and the Patriots. So, I mean, that game was an absolute blowout from the start. Patriots just got annihilated by the
what
Bills.
Was that? Bills had a touchdown like 5 or 6 straight possessions or something.
Yeah.
Just
ridiculous.
Not something you're accustomed to seeing under a Bill Belichick defense for sure. So and Mac Jones, the rookie quarterback, is definitely not capable of matching Josh Allen right now, pound for pound. So,
and then you look at the Sunday games as well. I think the most surprising one, because I think you mentioned at the beginning of the year that this team could be a potential Super Bowl team, Tim. You mentioned this. The Cowboys get knocked out by the 49ers.
Mm-hmm. Well,
what was your...
Well, if you're the Cowboys, it's tough to win when you have 14 penalties. Okay? And they wanted to blame the refs and everything, and some of them could have been a little soft, but the vast majority of them were the Cowboys' fault. It falls on the head coach because they were discipline penalties. I mean, just flat out holding. I mean, how as a defensive lineman, when you're not even in the play, you're holding a defensive lineman. Like that had made it, I think it was third down at the time, would have been a huge stop for the Dallas, but they get called for defensive holding. It becomes an automatic first down. It's like, why? What are you doing? You guys are acting like you don't want to win this football game. And that was how they played. San Francisco, credit to them, came out, ran the football nicely, had the touchdown with Mitchell, and then had a touchdown with Debo as well. They came out and put it on the Cowboys, man. That Dak and company, just because of, honestly, in my opinion, they're the more talented team. They made a game of it late, but they just couldn't overcome their mistakes, man. And then Colin, what was it? A QB a draw?
Yeah, that was my next question.
12 seconds left in the game. You have no timeouts in the middle of the field, and then you blame the ref for not getting there fast enough. It's like, no. It's like, I don't think you're going to get it off anyway.
Yeah, you should have done a pass play. I mean, let's be real. I mean, you had 14 seconds. You throw an incompletion. You may have, 10, 11 seconds maybe? So calling a QB sneak is not the best. I think Dak probably thought back to his college days, hey, if I get the first down, clock stops. But you got to realize ain't the way it works in the NFL. So
that would make sense if he was a rookie. But I mean, what is this? His fourth year in the league at this point?
2014 was his last year with Mississippi State, so it's been a while. I mean, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and now 21. This year 7, if I'm correct, under Dak Prescott.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just inexcusable. I mean, even for a rookie, I mean, you can't make a rookie mistake there. You have to know what you're doing, and it's just the play calling there, and they stood by it after the game, and then they had the nerve to Dak Prescott's comments about the refs and stuff. We'll probably get into that here in a little bit, but I mean, just overall, Dallas should have won that game because honestly, they were the better team. But the problem is they didn't play like it. They were not disciplined, and that falls on head coach Mike McCarthy. So the calls for him to be fired. Look, under normal circumstances, you know, when you're anybody but a sort of quote unquote America's team, you know, you're fine. You're like, okay, we made the playoffs. You know, we had 12 wins. You know, and there's not even a question. But when you're America's team, supposedly, and you're as good as these Cowboys were, I mean, this team was really good defensively, much improved from last year, and offensively, they got Dak back. They have Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, and then you have Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard in the backfield. I mean, this team should have been at least going to or very, very close to going to the NFC Championship game. And the fact they came up short, man, it's their fault. I mean, they have nobody to blame but themselves. They could have won this game had they had not committed so many penalties and kind of just cost themselves.
Agreed. I think the post-game comments from Dak really got me. So
yeah, I was surprised.
I was shocked too. Do you think that affects his future going forward with the program, with the organization?
I don't think so. Just because I feel like a lot of people in that organization would probably feel the same way and just like, oh, the refs, screwed us over. And it's just like, no, it's like if you have that mentality, like first of all, you should never leave the game in the hands of the refs. Like you can't do that. You should never do that. And they did. And really, truly, I mean, you look at those penalties. Some of them were like, yeah, that's a penalty. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about the refs for. If you're mad at them for not getting to the ball at the spot in time, you should have known that's not their fault. That's your fault for the play call. This whole thing that doesn't make any sense to me. And Dak's comments kind of reflect the organization as well. I don't think – I mean, it's not going to affect him too bad because, I mean, there hasn't been really an uproar per se over it. Yeah. And I think it was more so kind of in jest, kind of when he said it, people started laughing a little bit. So
yeah, I agree.
At least I hope that's what it was, but, never know. But my initial reaction was very surprised. I was like, wow. Yeah. I wonder what his fine is going to be like.
Yeah, he's not a very vocal guy in the first place. I mean, you haven't seen him in a lot of press conferences make quotes like that. So when I saw it and heard it, I was like, that's not Dak Prescott. But, I mean, it was. So, and I think he'll face the penalty for it eventually. I think they'll fine him just like they have with everybody else. But, he did come out on Twitter, and that's how most athletes do it. They come out on Twitter and apologize for it. So, but that doesn't help his case. Team still gets eliminated from the playoffs, and the 49ers move on. The game before that in the NFC, the Eagles and the Bucks. It really wasn't anything till late in the game when the Eagles tried to make a comeback and did not successfully do that. Final score 31-15. Do you think Tom Brady's prone to another Super Bowl, or
he very well could be?
Maybe stopping the tracks next week.
He very well could be. Let's see. He played okay in that game. He played fine against the Eagles. I mean, Eagles very young group, very talented group is going to be a team to watch out for. But they were young. I'm not so sure if Jalen Hurts is their answer yet at quarterback. Yeah, we'll have to see on that. Their matchup this week coming up. They didn't do so hot against the Rams in the regular season early on, but that was at SoFi Stadium. This is going to be in Tampa. So with that said, I mean, it's going to be interesting, man. I look forward to this one. Jalen Ramsey versus Tom Brady, Aaron Donald versus Tom Brady. The Bucs are a little beat up on offense a little bit, and I don't know if they're still reeling from that Antonio Brown situation, but I mean, he definitely in this type of game could have been a factor for sure.
Factor, yeah.
But if you're the Rams, you got to put a lid on Rob Gronkowski. Yeah. Especially if you get in the red zone, you get red zone opportunities. You got to put a clamp down on this guy. You got to put. I mean, even then, I mean, you may try and it still may not work, but you got to double coverage Rob Gronkowski. I mean, you have no choice. That is someone that you've got to take away. The problem is with the Bucs, they also have Mike Evans, who's not quite as tall, but very close, and he's just as much of a threat in the red zone as Rob Gronkowski is. So it's almost like pick your poison here, and it's going to fall on Matthew Stafford. His defense isn't going to be able to save him. I mean, they were able to solidly handle the Cardinals. I mean, that surprised me, that final score, 34-11. It really did. It was impressive for the Rams and very, very disappointing for the Cardinals. But, it's going to be interesting to see just because I don't think the Rams defense is going to be able to do that, obviously, because going from playing Kyler Murray, no offense, Kyler Murray, he's a good quarterback in his own right, Heisman winner in college. He's not Tom Brady, obviously. Nowhere near as decorated, nowhere near as much experience. He's going to study this game. He's going to know where to go. They're going to come out with a good game plan. And I have full confidence in Bruce Arians. I said this before on one of the shows that I produced during the day, that I really do think that until Tom Brady is dethroned, I mean, you can't doubt the Buccaneers just because of TB12. I mean, and it's just for that simple fact. So in this one, I'd kind of leaning towards Tampa Bay. That 3-point spread, kind of going back and forth on that. I could kind of see that, but ultimately, I would actually take the Buccaneers to cover that 3-point spread.
Yeah, and then finally, because we already kind of covered the Rams Cardinals a little bit. Last but not least, Big Ben, final game against the Chiefs. Chiefs scored so many points and ran out of fireworks, Tim. Yeah. 42 points. I mean, you run out of fireworks at 42 points. I mean, most times NFL teams don't score 42 points, but I mean, still, you run out of fireworks at 42 points. Like, come on. Like,
especially with Patrick Mahomes and that offense, you would think.
Think you'd have more fireworks, but could this do you think this is the end of the road for Ben Roethlisberger? I say yes.
I say yes as well, and I say it should be because we're basically to the point where it's like, okay, Ben, you basically have said you're done, and we see it on the field. It's time for you to go. It's time for you to kind of hang it up. I know you wanted another Super Bowl. It's not going to happen, and Pittsburgh kind of needs to move on too. They need to find their next quarterback. And I mean, I guarantee you, they've kind of wanted to do that. They just were like, we're not going to handle this like certain other teams where we'll just say, yeah, you're gone. Like, I mean, the Panthers did to Cam Newton. I mean, numerous other teams have done this to quarterbacks. Like, yeah, we're not going to do that. Ben, you've earned the right to kind of play until you can't play no more. And so I think he owes it to the organization. Like, yeah, you're right. After this season, I'm done. I can't play no more. I'm done. I just don't have anything left in me. I think he owes that to the team because you got running back like Najee Harris. You got Chase Claypool. You've got
a lot of talent.
Deontay Johnson. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, who was injured for most of this year, but he'll be coming back next year. You got a lot of talent there, and you can't afford to waste any more time with these guys. So I think getting a young quarterback in there, whether it's Joshua Dobbs, whether it's Mason Rudolph, or someone they bring in through free agency or the draft, I think this is something that Big Ben needed to do, and the Steelers needed this to happen. So I think ultimately I agree, and I think it's time for them to hang it up.
Okay. All right. Now let's move into some of these games that are happening this weekend. Bengals at the Titans. Tim, look, this is I think
starting the weekend off with a bang.
I know, pretty much. Saturday night. I don't know how I feel about these Saturday night NFL games, but I'm trying to adapt to it. But the Titans somehow, some way, bringing back Derrick Henry. Looks like he'll be back. Julio Jones will be back, and A.J. Brown will be back. Now that they have all these weapons on offense, can they stop the momentum from the Bengals?
They can, but will they? I mean, they're a 3.5-point favorite in this one. 4:30 kickoff Saturday. Man, I mean, can't think of a better way to start the division round. I mean, Derrick Henry going up against Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. I mean, Ryan Tannehill's going to have to perform very well. And again, what is Derrick Henry going to look like? He's been out for weeks. If we get even close to what 100% Derrick Henry looks like, this could be a very high-scoring game. But don't underestimate the Tennessee defense. They're very, very good. They've been locked down. They locked down the Chiefs earlier in the year and kind of when the Chiefs were struggling there. So this defense is a little underrated, and I think they'll perform well. And ultimately, I mean, I'm still kind of trying to decide here, but just because you like Chase, I mean, they won last week, and T. Higgins had 1 catch for 10 yards. But
Yeah.
either way, I mean, they've got guys like Tyler Boyd, I mean, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, I mean, Joe Mixon in the backfield. I mean, this whole entire offense for Cincinnati's loaded. So
Yeah.
it should be a fun one. I think it could potentially be a shootout, but also if it's a shootout, it favors the Bengals. If it kind of lowers scoring, it favors the Titans at home. But I think ultimately, I think the Titans do pull it away just because I think we're going to see a little bit more of vintage Henry. I think probably be about 75 to 80%, but I think that'll be good enough. And I think he'll probably get about $110 in this game, if I had to guess, maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think he has a solid game, and I think the Titans win about, I'll say, 27-24.
Okay.
So the Bengals would cover the line there, but Tennessee would still win.
Do you think Derrick Henry gets over or under 20 carries?
That's tough. First game coming back, but it is the playoffs. I mean, running back, their careers don't last long. With the workhorse that he is, I say over.
Yeah, I say over too. I'm going to go with you on this one as well. I like the momentum that the Bengals have had. They're a really young team. They are. I think that Tennessee has a little bit more experience in these playoffs, and I think that will show. And I like the score that you have, 27-24. I think that's reasonable. I think that's very, very fair for both of these teams. So I'm going to agree with that, 27-24 Titans. And Tim, we don't agree on much, but I'll agree on that. So there you go. All right, 49ers at the Packers. I'm going Packers all day long. I think they'll be too much for Jimmy G and company.
I have 2 words for you, Ben. Ready?
All right, go.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, at home, I mean, what is this temp going to be? I mean, I think someone said it's going to be very, very low temperatures there. And, of course, you wouldn't expect anything else there in Green Bay. So it's going to be
12.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's actually a little warmer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, but San Francisco coming over. I mean, last week they were in a dome, nice and comfy. San Francisco, it'll get cold, but it's not. It doesn't get Green Bay cold. So
yeah, that's true.
It's going to be a completely different atmosphere for them, but it does help them a little bit because that is more running type weather type game. Don't even know if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play in this one. I mean, they may go with a quarterback that was playing at the FCS level last year in Trey Lance. So again, Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't at practice today. So it'll be interesting to see what they go with. And if they do go with Trey Lance, man, their defense better step up. That's all I'll say. Because if they don't, we could be looking like a 31-13 type ball game here. And then we're really going to find out what they have in Trey Lance. We're going to kind of be unfair to him, thrusting him into the playoffs in the division round for his first start in a while. I can't remember if he started a game this year, but it'd be very unfair to him. And it just that you would I'll say this now. Green Bay -5.5. Get in on that now, just because Jimmy Garoppolo hadn't been rolled out yet. If he's not playing in this game, I mean, they may cover that 5.5 even if Jimmy G's playing. But if jump on that all day if it's Trey Lance at quarterback. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. But then again, Trey Lance may be used to the cold playing in North Dakota State. So who knows?
Yeah, that will be definitely interesting. Now Sunday, this is probably going to be the most interesting one, and this is probably the one I'm going to be most excited about. Rams at the Bucks. I'll let you go first, Tim.
Matchup to watch here. Tom Brady, obviously, but Rob Gronkowski versus whoever's going to cover him. Are they going to have someone to on him? Who are they going to put? I mean, because obviously you're probably going to put Jalen Ramsey on Mike Evans. Mm-hmm. And really, truly, if you can kind of shut down that running game, and because if you let Tom Brady have a decent running game, it's over. I mean, you might as well turn up the lights and go home now. I mean, it's done. So you got to shut down Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, Rojo. If you shut down those two guys, and you have a chance in this game, but you're going to have to play really good red zone defense when they get there, and you're going to have to follow the path that you followed earlier this season when you beat them at SoFi Stadium. You're going to have to put up points, and that's going to follow Matthew Stafford. He did a good job last week in a game in which his defense really is like, hey, we got this. We put the clamps down on the Cardinals. I don't think they're going to be able to do that this week. So they're going to need Matthew Stafford to step up, and it would be interesting to see if he can. With that said, you don't go against the GOAT. And so I
Yes,
don't
sir.
think they're going to be able to shut them down enough. And I think the Bucks win.
I think this is going to be close. I like the 3 point spread for Tampa Bay, and you know what? I'll probably stick with that. It's just like you said. You have Tom Brady the GOAT, but you have him at home, and that puts a little bit more pressure on the Rams. Even though they won the first game in the beginning, you mentioned it was at SoFi Stadium, so there's a lot different about this game, and it's in the playoffs. Matthew Stafford, he's a Georgia guy. I don't like Georgia, but
The
here's
damn
the thing:
Bulldogs.
he great NFL quarterback, did great for the Lions, but he hasn't had. I can't tell you a playoff win, and I can't tell you how long, other than last week. So, Tom Brady, he'll be too much for the Rams. Give me the Bucks by 3. I like the spread. All right, Bills and Chiefs. Tim, um, this is at the Chiefs. I'm gonna go. The Bills scored a lot of points last week, but so did the Chiefs, and I don't think this is a fair spread of a 1.5. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this one. Probably the highest scoring game besides the Bengals and the Titans. I'm gonna go Chiefs in this one, and I could see this one being a 3-point game as well.
Uh, this is where we finally have our first disagreement. And in the great words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. The Bills, man, I mean, look, the last time they played Chiefs, I know the Chiefs were struggling, but October 10th, the Bills annihilated Kansas City
Yeah,
on Sunday Night Football, 38 to
I
20.
agree.
So the Bills, they were so close to Super Bowl last year. Got the AFC Championship game, got blown out by the Chiefs, didn't really have a chance. I mean, Stephon Diggs, everyone knows that picture of him looking at the Chiefs celebrating. They have a chance to avenge that this week. And honestly, if they get past the Chiefs here, they have a legit shot. I mean, either Tennessee or Cincinnati to knock them off. So, and I think they have the team to do it. It's going to be a question of their defense. If they can stop, I don't know if Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I know he's been banged up. I don't know if he's
Yeah,
playing this week.
I don't know
But
either.
if they're able to stop the run and they're able to kind of really, truly, you got to put the clamps down on Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
Yeah. Pittsburgh wasn't able to do that. I mean, Travis Kelce had a passing touchdown last week, for crying out loud. Man can do it all. So you're going to have to find a way to not stop him because you can't stop him. You're going to have to find a way to slow him down enough to where your boys on offense, Manuel Sanders, I think he's either way, Diggs, all those boys, you're going to have to go to work. And Josh Allen's going to have to play basically a flawless game. And I think he can. I think he will. Kansas City, 1.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Bills to win straight up.
okay. There you go. All right, well, there's our picks. When we come back, we'll be breaking down a little bit of college basketball. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back into the Sideline Sports Show. Tim, we haven't talked about this much, but I think it's about time we start talking about it a little bit more because college football has come to an end and March Madness has begun. But I think we should start with something that happened yesterday. Obviously, I don't know if you saw the Alabama LSU, uh, the whole thing about that. They were literally selling tickets for like $6 for a
Really?
right to get. Yeah, they were selling tickets for literally $6. Stadium wasn't even crowded for this game against LSU last night, and Alabama pulls out a huge win over number 13 LSU, 70-67. And I mean, it came down to free throws and great game. But I want to talk about one specific thing: how bad the ACC is down this year. I mean, it is awful, Tim.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
ACC champs, I think, are 7-9. That tells you how bad Tech is. Clemson, last year they had a great year last year and 2 years ago. They're struggling this year. Really, you look at the ACC, Florida State, they're kind of consistent, but really not up there. I'm trying to see Duke is up there, number 6. But you look at the rest of the top 25. There's not a single ACC team that's ranked. What's wrong with the ACC team? Like,
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. Miami coming in at 6-1's been a good surprise, but
yeah,
Florida State had a not up to par non-conference, like something that they're usually used to.
right.
Duke didn't look so great against Florida State. It was a hard-fought win, game in which you expect them to hope to win comfortably. They looked it was anything but, obviously. I mean, my team. I got to talk about my team. Ben, I got to air this out.
Go ahead. Tim.
Played Boston College. They played Syracuse last night. Gave up 91 points, by the way. Then they play Boston College. The game before that. Did you see this, Ben?
Yeah, I did.
They were up. I think it was 34-11. Clemson was on Boston College. I was like, okay, fine. It's like that game's over with. I can go to dinner with family and friends. I'll be all right. Next thing I know, I get a notification from ESPN says it's 39-32 at the half. I'm like,
dude, what?
What? I'm like, am I reading that right? Sure enough, they'd blown a 23-point lead, and they almost blew it in before it was halftime. Oh, jeez.
Hey,
I just had to get that out of there.
But,
I mean, as you said, Georgia Tech, who won the ACC tournament last year, 1-6.
My team 1-6 in ACC play, and I mean, look, you look at their last games; they weren't even competitive. Like they weren't. They lost to Wake Forest 80-64. All right, that's not even competitive. Lost to lost to North Carolina 88-65. Wasn't even competitive. They beat Boston College. They had to come back and beat Boston College, by the way. Beat Notre Dame in overtime. Duke really wasn't competitive 69-57 and was barely competitive in the Louisville game. Had to come back and still lose 67-64. So you look at this Georgia Tech team, they are just struggling. And it makes me go, or is it time? I hate doing this, but is it time to let go of Josh Pastner? I love what he's done. But when you go and win ACC, and then you come back and you go 1-6 in the ACC, there's just nothing clicking. I mean, they got two great players in Michael DeVoe and Jordan Usher, but that's it. Like, there's not a lot of talent. Oh, injuries, reasons of that, partially, but that's not the full problem.
Yeah, I could kind of see that. I mean, in tournament one, he had the benefit of I think it was Virginia having to back out or something in the semifinals due to a COVID reason. So they kind of got catapulted to the championship. Yeah. So, I mean, I can see that. I can see why you want to change of leadership. But I don't know. Maybe it's just these guys just haven't found their way yet. They're not clicking yet. And maybe they'll click next year. I don't know. But if I feel like you maybe give him at least one more year just because of, he won the ACC tournament and was a 8 seed, I believe, last year in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, the ACC, SEC is just kind of taking over.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it was like, y'all have football. Y'all want to take basketball too? But, it was just, we were talking about a few years ago, ACC was so good. It's the best conference in basketball. It's like maybe the fourth best at best, Yeah. I mean, Big Ten's better. SEC's better. I mean, one could argue the Big 12 and Pac-12 are better. Yeah. I mean,
you could. You really could. I think the surprising thing for me is Auburn. I mean, they've made their way all the way up to number 2. They're 6-0 in conference. I thought it was hilarious last night. They beat Georgia. I don't know if you saw the tweet, but Georgia didn't even post the final score last night. And they wiped the scoreboard at the end of the game, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Like, they shut it off before the time he even hit 0, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. They got beat 83-60, Tim. And I don't see
Todd. It was at Auburn too.
Yeah, I don't see Todd Cream staying much longer at Georgia. I mean, Anthony Edwards was the only good thing that really happened for Georgia basketball. I mean, really.
So. Yeah, there's not really much there. And to your point, though, on Auburn, like number 2 in the country, Bruce Pearl, man. As long as he's not cheating over there and not breaking the rules, I mean, he's a really good coach. He gets his team to where they need to be. So, number 2, I actually didn't know that. I was surprised. I was like, when you said number 2, I was like, What?
Number 2,
No,
yeah.
they're number 2 in the country right now.
The last time we talked, I think they were number 16 or 15. They were like mid-pack. And so when I saw that they were number 2, I was like, "Oh my gosh, they've surpassed Kentucky, they surpassed LSU and Tennessee, which are all great programs." So really shocking. I mean, really, the SEC is probably the conference to kind of watch out for because there's so many great teams within, and teams that aren't even ranked. Like Texas A&M, they're 15-3, 4-1 in conference play. Mississippi State, they're 3-2 in conference play, 12-5 overall. Alabama, 3-3, 12-6 overall. Arkansas, 13-5 and 3-3 in conference play, and they're not even ranked. So that shows you how strong this SEC is right now in men's basketball.
Right, and the game to look forward to this Saturday, Kentucky goes to Auburn. So that's right around the corner. That's a 1:00 tip on CBS. So that'd be a fun one to tune into as we turn our focus to Saturday. But you know what, Ben? I've kind of turned my focus. I've stopped paying attention to Clemson, and I've paid attention to another local team of mine.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this, Tim.
And
tell us why. Tell us why.
I am looking at Furman basketball. Tell you, man, because I gotta tell you, right now, to me, watching SoCon basketball, watching
so much
teams
fun.
like Belmont, teams like Chattanooga. I mean, did you watch that Chattanooga Furman game on CBS Sports Network?
I did not.
Dude, Chattanooga won on free throws with like 7 seconds left. Furman missed a wide open layup at the buzzer. It was just a chaotic ending. It was so much fun. I mean, two best teams in the SoCon. I mean, people know Furman. I mean, they took down Villanova a couple years ago. They've beaten other teams over the past. This year, for one, they went into the KFC Yum Center and knocked off Louisville. I mean, they were tied with North Carolina half, 39-all. They should have beaten Mississippi State, but they let that go late. I mean, and this team's just overall, I just don't understand where people are sleeping on the SoCon. Like, I mean, teams like from the A10 and all stuff, they're good and everything, but like, what makes it to where the SoCon can't be a multi-bid league?
Right.
Personally, I don't understand it. I think Chattanooga and Furman are both NCAA tournament teams.
I think you could honestly make an argument for Mercer too. I think you really could.
Yeah,
they're 11-8, but I mean, you got to look. I mean, their schedule is tough, so I think you could make an argument for them too. But definitely for Chattanooga and Furman, hands down. I think you can make a better argument for those two, hands down, to make the NCAA tournament. And I can't tell you the last time you've had two SoCon teams make it into March Madness. I can't. I mean,
it's been a long time. It's been a really long time. I mean, Mercer really truly. I mean, they had some opportunities early in the season against Arkansas. Let that game go late, lost by 13, and then Winthrop, who's a very, very good team, who you'll probably see in the NCAA tournament again this year for like the third straight year at the Big South. Very, very solid team. They took them to overtime at Winthrop, so solid. I mean, the Mercer is kind of lacking that big time win. But overall, VMI at one point, who's also in the SoCon, who beat Furman, they actually had like a 16-point lead on Wake Forest at home. Yeah. And Wake Forest, by the way, is like one of the top teams in the ACC by standing wise right now. So they ultimately came back and won by like 7, I think. But ultimately, the SoCon, man, it's a lot of good basketball, and people kind of sleeping on it. People really do need to pay attention to the mid-major teams, and it's so much fun. And then Furman last night against Western Carolina, who, by the way, beat Chattanooga a week ago.
Yeah.
Beat them by 11. Then Chattanooga beats Furman. Then did you see the game last night between Furman and Western Carolina, Ben?
Yeah.
Did you
No,
see anything? Not. Furman won 88-50. And guess how many three-pointers they made?
I'm going to assume it had to be over 12. It had to.
It was 21.
Oh, my gosh, Tim.
They had 21 three-pointers in the game. 21. I mean, and they shot 3. So, they call them Threeville for a reason. So.
Yeah, that's true. Man,
so it's a lot of entertaining basketball down there at the mid-major level for sure. Obviously, you're going to have the mid-major of Gonzaga, which is not really a mid-major, but apparently they're in a mid-major conference.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's
that league is pretty good too. I mean, there's two. BYU is good, and there's another
BYU,
team.
they're barely outside the top 25. I mean, they're getting ready to knock down in the top 25. I mean, they're 15-4, 3-1 in conference play. But I mean, those are really the two teams that stand out within that conference. And St. Mary's is the other team that stands out in that conference too, 15-3 overall as their overall record. So, I mean, these mid-major teams are probably what makes college basketball so entertaining
Yeah.
because of the fact of there's not a. I don't think you can go into college basketball and say, oh yeah, there's a dominant team every year, because I think it changes every year. Because I mean, you have teams that just aren't consistent every single year. I mean, you've seen Duke. I mean, Duke's not the team that's winning the national title every year. I mean, they're up there in the Final Four, but they're definitely not winning the title every single year. And I think that's what makes college basketball more interesting to watch, because of the fact there's more teams that are competitive within college basketball and a lot more conferences that are competitive in basketball. Like you mentioned, the SoCon. You wouldn't think the SoCon would, like, when you think of college sports, you don't think the SoCon for anything. And now they've been consistent in basketball recently. I mean, you go back and I remember Mercer taking down Duke in the first round. I mean, that's probably the highlight that people remember from the SoCon. But a lot of people just don't remember it because it's like, oh, it's Mercer. So,
And that Wofford team a few years ago,
yeah,
that was I think a 9 seed overall, and that was a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. Went to the second round and almost knocked off Kentucky, lost by like 3 or 4.
yeah, they lost by 3. Yeah, it came down late to free throws. So I think that's what makes college basketball a lot more interesting to watch and observe from
Much more
afar than any other college athletic sport. So, all right, Tim, sleeper. Do you think Furman makes it in to the March Madness? Yes or no?
I mean, to be fair, they haven't made it in 42 years. So
Yeah, I know that's your sleeper, but do you think they get in?
I think they still have a possibility. They have a strong chance of doing it. Again, Chattanooga is going to be a big threat to them. And if they can avoid VMI and Wofford in the tournament, they have a chance. But so that's saying a lot. So another team, I love Belmont and everything. Liberty's starting to come alive in the ASUN. They're starting to come alive. They're ranked number 25 in the mid-major poll this week. So they dominated Jacksonville. Another team that historically, when they get into the NCAA tournament, they cause a lot of problems for their opponents. So just ask Mississippi State a few years ago; they know.
That's true.
So they could cause some problems. And then, like you said, these teams in the West Coast Conference, you can't judge them based off Gonzaga, because you look at Gonzaga. Ben, I'll just read these off to you. These scores:
All right,
117 to 83, 110 to 84, 115 to 83. That's Gonzaga's last 3 conference games. 117, 110 points, and then 115 points. And one of those games was against BYU, the second best team in the conference. So you can't judge them based off that. And then St. Mary's, these teams, man, if they get in, they could cause some trouble early on, in your first round game. Other than that, probably not. But I do like Belmont, though. But I'm going to stick with my Furman Paladins, man. I'm going to rep them just because if they get into that NCAA tournament and they shoot the 3-ball anywhere between 35 to 40%, man, they're going to be a big problem for whoever they play. Now, they do have a size disadvantage, but that's going to come down to Jalen Slauson being able to be a big-time big man in there getting rebounds. But overall, I think that they could be a very, very big-time sleeper team that could make a run, possibly a Sweet 16, but they have to have things kind of fall their way.
I like these teams that are down at the bottom of the top 25. Xavier, Providence, Loyola, Chicago. But I think a team that will probably sneak in next week into the top 25 will be Alabama, especially getting that huge win over LSU. I think really there's a lot of these teams in the SEC that have a really good shot to still make it in, even if they don't win the SEC tournament. And it will be really, really interesting to see who that. I think they'll probably allow 3 from the SEC to get in. Obviously, you see Kentucky. Kentucky will make it in. Auburn's probably that probably that first seed if they go on to win the whole entire SEC tournament. But Alabama could sneak in there. as that third team for the SEC. And I think it'd be really, really interesting to see how far they can go because they're a really tough, competitive basketball team. They took LSU to the wire last night, and I think really and truly, I think what killed them last night was free throws. I think if they can get better on that, I think this team could go really, really far into the March Madness tournament. I think they did it last year. I mean, I think they made it all the way until the Elite Eight or Final Four, and I think they're capable of doing it again.
Another team to keep your eye out in the SEC would be Tennessee. I know that they didn't play very good against Kentucky at Rupp Arena, got railroaded 107-79, and didn't play that great at LSU. But, I mean, this team's solid. They are a very good bunch. They're a solid basketball team. Keep an eye on them if they can kind of right the ship. They have a very big game on Saturday at 6 o'clock against LSU at home this time. So, if they can win that one and kind of come away with things, get some momentum in, they could be someone to watch out for in the SEC. They're a very, very, very solid club. So,
yeah. Well, that is all the time that we have for today.
Man.
Before we go, I know, it was quick. I mean, 40 minutes, but we hit everything that we were going to talk about.
Yeah. That's what you do on the Sideline Sports Show, man. We go bop, 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 bop. We go right to it. You know?
Tim, do we got to shout out somebody because we haven't shouted out the national champions yet? And I'll let you do it because I'm not doing it.
Oh, yeah.
2021 national champions.
Hey, I'm just going to say it right now. I said preseason Georgia was going to win. Okay.
You did. I give you credit.
I only got 2 teams right in the playoff, but I don't care. I got the champions right.
Yeah, that's all that matters, Tim.
Cody, I don't know if you're there because you haven't been active today, but I think that's where he is. He's hiding. He's hiding somewhere wherever. Because it's been kind of lonely, Cody. Where the Roll Tides been? We haven't seen them. Where they been? Well,
man? They went into hide. Well, I think what was funny was how many Alabama fans said, "Oh, we didn't care if Georgia won the national title." There was a lot of those, and I saw those, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me! Like, come on!" But congrats to them; they deserved it. They were
coming back for another year too.
JT Daniels entered the transfer portal, so I mean, it's going to be interesting down there in Athens to see if a freshman will step up and dethrone Stetson, or if he will remain QB all.
By the way, Dabo finally used the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Of course, he used it to bring back a former player.
Yeah, brings back a former quarterback from Clemson. So
yeah,
good job, Dabo. Good job, Dabo. And then Xavier Thomas coming back.
He is coming back
for Clemson. That's going to be huge for Clemson's defense next year. So that'll be really interesting to watch. But before you go, make sure go follow all of our social media platforms right there: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Sideline Sports Show. Unless it's Twitter's Sideline SP Show. And that will do it for today's show. Tim, any final thoughts before we head out for this lovely NFL playoff weekend?
Yeah. Survive snowstorm 2022. Survived that last week. Well, got about 5.5 inches here. Tried to go sledding, but it was too powdery at the time. So,
hey, I mean, I was shocked. We did get 1.5 inches of snow, and I was very shocked. I did not think it would snow that well, and supposedly it was supposed to snow again Friday or tomorrow, and now that's out of the forecast too. So, who knows?
Thank you to whoever weather. Thank you. We are done with snow. I had to drive to work these last few days at 4:30 in the morning with the ice, and I gotta tell you, I don't think I've ever been more right with Jesus in my life. Okay. It's true. I mean, I was praying. I was praying. I'm like, Lord, get me through this, please. Because I was sliding so much. But He got me through it. So
you look like you were in a trip.
Yeah, for real. I was sliding.
It's funny. It's probably after 85 too.
Yeah, for real.
Well, that's all the time we got for today. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you all next week right here.